Hello, welcome everybody. This is Arvind here. We are back with the session for non-finance professionals. And as you know, the intention is that most of our friends here who are attending these sessions, they have already done the tough part. That means learning about law or medicine or engineering and all those things. But I think there is not much information about the accounting or finance part. And the intention of these sessions is to bridge that gap so that our attendees they get better knowledge about those features. And as we keep on saying all the time that these sessions are for you, so your participation is very important. Please keep on asking questions to our trainer. And if there's not enough time in these sessions, yeah, feel free to put your questions in the WhatsApp group as well. Our trainer, CMA Jyotsna Rajpal, she is kind enough to offer her services at no cost to you. Otherwise, you might be paying like thousands of rupees outside, and her expertise is available for you. Without much delay, I would like to hand over to Mrs. Rajpal. Please carry on, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arvind.
You're welcome.
And thanks everyone for being here on this Saturday morning when we feel a little relaxed and we want to sit back at home. You are here for learning. So I would like to come to our fifth session today. Till now, we have like uh, like uh, heard about what the profit and loss account is, what balance sheet is, what are the accounting transactions. We were like more into core accounting thing. From today onwards, we will be talking more about the managing our own business or managing our own enterprise, or even if we are at a senior position, if we are at a managerial level, then how to manage our things going. So we will talk more about the practical orientation. So first of all, we will start with the value addition, because value addition is one such word which is being used very frequently, and every now and then we are using value addition. To everyone, we ask that what is your value addition, what is the other person's value addition. So what is exactly value addition? So value addition, we can say in very simple terms that it takes place only when by means of manufacturing a product, rendering a service, or storage and preservation. That is the value addition. The value perceived by a consumer. Suppose I have taken and converted into a dress. Resources have been deployed to add value to this. Say fabric was say 200 rupees a of dress consumed, and I could sell that dress for say 2000 rupees. So whatever is the difference between value of basic material towards the end of the product, that is the value added by each and every component. The first value was added by the fabric, then some labor was added on, some embellishments were there, some accessories were there. So in simple, whatever we are adding to create a value to be offered to the customers, that is value addition. Next, we'll come to the resources. In the group itself, I have asked about the resources. Basically, we have 5 resources. We will see one by one. And natural resources, first of them is natural resources. Natural resources are which are provided by the nature. Like we cannot create. That is one item, that is land. Land is always natural. We cannot create any land. We can create bridges over this rivers or sea or wherever, but we cannot create even a 1 square inch of piece of land. So that is a completely natural resource, and land is the basic requirement to add your value, because whatever you are doing, if you are providing services, you require some office, you require some place to work on. If you are having a manufacturing unit, you require some space. So value addition, in the process of value addition, we definitely requires natural resources, and rent is the remuneration for this resource, that is land. Then we have human resources. To perform any activity, to get into the process of value addition, human resources are very much essential. You may be using n number of machines, but somewhere some skill is required and somewhere some human power is required. So human power utilized in the process of value addition is called human resources. The remuneration for human resources is, as we all know, these are wages, salary, honorarium, consultancy. It can be anything, but these are basically to utilize, that is a remuneration or value which we are paying to utilize the human resources. Next is monetary resources. Monetary resources are basically capital resources, means capital funds infused for the purpose of value addition. Because even if I have land, I have manpower, but if I don't have funds, I won't be able to do anything, because I can't buy material, I can't buy machinery, I can't buy other things. In this whole thing, money has a very important role to play, and money initially can be generated through the capital sources only, through capital funds only. So monetary resources are capital funds infused for the purpose of value addition, and remuneration for capital is interest. Interest is the remuneration for capital infused. Then comes mandatory resources. So mandatory resources are support provided by the state to achieve value addition. Like, how does it help you? How state helps you? State helps you in giving infrastructure. They provide you roads, they provide you railways, telecommunication, they provide you so many other resources. They provide you various certifications also, through which you can run your business. So we have to pay back to this agency also. So for them, taxes, duties, and cess is the remuneration for the state. We always pay in the form of taxes, duties, cess, or sometimes if we are obtaining certain registrations or registration charges, maybe some legal expenses, legal duties we are paying, but it all will be covered under the taxes, duties, and cess. And the benefit what we get, suppose we are buying a material, we are taking some human help. So for that, we are directly getting the benefit in our business. But in case of mandatory resources, whatever we are paying, it is not only towards the benefit of our organization, but it directs economy as a whole, and it plays a vital role in the equitable distribution of economic wealth. The basic purpose of the state is to provide equitable distribution of the economic wealth. So this is how, in in the broader perspective, they are helping us. Mandatory resources are helping us to run our business in a proper way. Because if the economic wealth is not distributed, we won't be able to sell our products, sell our services. So to get that, the overall economic growth of the nation, economic growth of the state is mandatory. Then comes the managerial resources. Entrepreneurial skills consumed to achieve value addition are managerial resources. And profit after tax, so whatever is left in our pocket after paying to all the resources is the profit. So that is the remuneration for the managerial resources. Now we will come to the, I'll share one thing, that we understood that what are resources and how do we pay to them. But we can pay to them only when we have earned something. If I could do business and if I could earn some money, then I will be able to pay the taxes, then I will be able to pay the rent, then I will be able to pay the salaries. So to pay back to all these resources, we need to have a business in healthy conditions, so that it should be like its revival, its survival is there, then we can pay to the all the resources. So to make the business going, to make the business healthy, we need to perform certain activities. We must be manufacturing something. We must be providing some services to the society. We must be like providing manufacturing or constructing some infrastructure. So all these things, these are all like every business has a different kind of working. So how will you ensure that these things are being managed properly? So for that purpose, we have key performance indicators. So what are those indicators? That for every business, we have certain, like till now we have studied about the financial indicators, like whatever is the profit, whatever is the revenue, whatever is the cost, whatever depreciation, whatever taxes, whatever profit before tax, all these things, and whatever is the cash flow. We even talked about cash flow. So, what are the financial key performance indicators? That is that we have like heard something, we studied, or we like discussed about it. Then comes non-financial indicators. Everything is convertible into money, that becomes financial. But in the condition as it is are the non-financial things. Like in case of manufacturing, if you talk about, so we are not generating the revenue straight away. First, we are manufacturing certain product. That product is being sold in the market, and then money is coming in. We have incurred certain costs. Suppose we have purchased some raw material, we have purchased some utilities, but ultimately that gets converted into financial terms. So in financial aspect, we can like monitor the financial indicators. But before that everything gets converted into financial terms, there has to be certain non-financial parameters which have to be like regularly checked. So we call them non-financial performance indicators, or those are actual performance indicators. And the beauty of these non-financial parameters is, non-financial indicators is, these are very much industry specific. If I talk about manufacturing industry, it may not be same for two different industries. It may not be same for sugar and distillery. It may not be same for oil and distillery. So because why so? Because processes are different, raw material consumed are different, outcome is different. So we have to focus. If we are able to control non-financial indicators, we will definitely be able to control the financial indicators, because financial is nothing but the shadow of the non-financial parameters, technical parameters. So I have just selected some parameters. We'll just see key performance indicators for manufacturing unit. For manufacturing unit, the most important parameter is capacity utilization. If you talk about power plant, it can be plant load factor. If you talk about sugar industry, it may be sugar cane crushing. If you talk about oil industry, it may be the refining of the crude oil. So capacity utilization is the most important factor. And if we are able to target higher capacity utilization, definitely our revenue will be higher. Then total production will be according to the whatever product we are manufacturing. Then comes total material recovery. Say if we talk about refined oil, in case of refined oil, if I am using crude oil and then I am processing it to get the refined oil, my raw material recovery will be somewhere around say 93%, 92 to 93%. So that is a very crucial thing, because if I am getting lesser recovery, means I am draining out my material in the, like my material is getting drained. So my like ultimately my material is getting drained and my money is getting drained. So this material recovery is very important for every manufacturing industry. Say maybe it is cotton, maybe it is a rice mill, maybe it is like sugar industry. So whatever industry we are into, our material recovery is very, very important. Even if we are into fertilizers or if we are into distillation, so raw material recovery is very crucial aspect. Then comes total losses. So in case of total losses, we have to see the difference between whatever we have introduced and whatever is the material recovery. So if total losses are more, then definitely our material is getting lost at a higher rate. So we are losing. So if we are able to control these two parameters, like if we are able to control my losses, then automatically my raw material recovery will improve. And raw material recovery will improve means my overall production will improve. And if production is improved, there is a chain, my revenue will increase. So this is how, by controlling losses, if you talk to a technical person, he will definitely say, okay, fine, we can control the losses. But if you tell to a chartered accountant that we can increase the profit by controlling the losses, he may not understand that cycles. But we here need to understand this cycle very much, because we are all like technical people, and here we are learning some finance also. So ultimately outcome in financial terms comes from the technical parameters only. By controlling the technical things, we can control our overall cost, or we can improve our overall profits. Then comes expected byproducts recovery. As you know that whatever raw material we are processing has one or other byproduct. Like if I am crushing sugarcane, I have bagasse, molasses, and press mud as the byproduct. If I'm making refined oil, then lecithin and acid oil, these are the two byproducts. So every major product which is like into after processing that, we get one main product and we get certain byproducts. So we have to see the byproduct recovery also. At times what will happen, that you can control the total losses. Your total losses are restricted to 2%, but your byproduct recovery has gone up to say 6%. Then automatically your raw material recovery or your finished good recovery will decline by 1.5%. So this is how you have to control both the things. One, you have to control the byproduct recovery, and you have to ultimately control the total losses, so that we can get the highest recovery for our main product. Then comes the utility consumption. We are consuming many utilities. Then we are consuming many chemicals also. We are consuming many additives also. So we have to see whatever is the most crucial, like whatever is in terms of cost. If something is beyond 5%, then we should consider here for the daily monitoring. So utility consumption, it may be power, it may be steam, it may be water, it may be diesel, it may be fusel oil, or it can be any utility. Then there can be certain chemical components, that there can be certain spares and stores and spares. So we need to monitor. Here we have to decide, as I told you, that this is all industry specific and this is all organization specific also. That wherever, whatever, depending upon our quantum of production or our capacity, overall installed capacity, whatever is contributing more towards the 5% of our total cost, we should bring under the purview of the key performance indicators. Then comes the total stoppages. Why we need to monitor stoppages? Because if we are monitoring stoppages, because stoppages is one thing which is affecting my capacity utilization. If my downtime is more, if out of say 24 hours, 3 hours my plant is not able to perform, so my automatically 1/8 means almost 12%, my capacity utilization went down by 12%. So similarly, if 10% or 12% of my time is going in the down, then definitely my capacity utilization will reduce and overall my production will reduce. So we need to monitor the stoppages also at like in very meticulous manner. This is clear. And all these parameters, all these indicators, we can make from industry to industry as per our own requirement. Then for consultancy services, I have just taken a small example. Here for consultancy services, usually man hours utilization is the biggest concern, because in consultancy, in case of consultancy, we have to provide some services, and to provide services, we need to consume the man hours or some machine hours. So here, that utilization is important to be monitored. Then we can say orders in pipeline. Whatever my orders are in pipeline, we need to monitor them. And what are the total orders booked? Then whatever is the work in progress. Say I have 5 projects in hand. Whatever is the work in progress on week to week basis or on daily basis, we need to monitor. Otherwise, at the suppose my delivery time is say after 2 months, say 31st January is my delivery time, and by say 1st of January I could not complete anything. So in last 30 days we cannot complete the whole thing. So we need to monitor work in progress on the routine basis. Then only we can complete the projects in time. In consultancy, time is a very crucial factor. Then orders completed, whatever orders we could complete, we can monitor here. And then what are the resources consumed? Suppose we have a particular kind of printers or particular kind of softwares, particular kind of you can say skills, like we have the say if I take the example of an architectural firm, they use the services of these consultants, various consultants like structural engineer, then AC air conditioning engineers, then electrician, then plumber. So these are all resources consumed. If they are working on turnkey basis, these resources consumed we need to monitor. Suppose if I have charged client for the plumbing work 1 lakh rupees, and if I see that my resources consumed for that project are 1.2 lakhs, so means I have straight away lost 20,000 rupees in the plumbing activity. So here we have to just monitor as per our particular business, like what can be the parameters for the resources consumption. Then idle time. So if some manpower or some man hours are few people, I think everyone is clear about the concept of idle time. It is the time when the person is available in the office, but his productive time is not there. Like he's not working anything, maybe because of power shutdown, maybe because system computers are down, maybe because some input he requires which is not available. So whatever is the idle time, we need to monitor. This will be very much helpful in case of the consultancy services. Like if I have to give a particular design in say say 2 days time, or my time allotted was say 20 hours. So out of 20 hours, I see that my manpower was working on that project for 25 hours, but actual consumption of those hours was only 20. So what is the 5 hours? What is the difference? That is the idle time. Means a person was sitting on that project, but he was not doing anything concrete on that project. So that also needs to be monitored very carefully in case of consultancy services. I see that my experience is that most of our resources or most of our profits are drained in the idle time, rather in unproductive time. So even this idle time you can also apply in your daily life. You can just start evaluating that what all time you are spending being idle. Maybe your any other any activities on which you are spending your time and which is not productive, like whatever unproductive time is there, so that is all idle time. So we need to monitor that. Yeah, comes key financial indicators. As we have already discussed that revenue, we will these key financial indicators are same for every industry, but there may be slight variation. Like in case of consultancy, material cost and transportation cost will not be considered here. In that place, we can say the manpower cost or say consultancy cost, which we are paying to our outside consultants. So here some factors may change, but more or less its format is going to remain the same. First is the revenue. Then from revenue, we can subtract the input cost, material cost or transportation cost, or other way, manpower utilized cost. So then we can arrive at the primary margin. Then comes variable manufacturing expenses. Like in case of manufacturing activity, we have variable manufacturing expenses. But in case of consultancy, we may be having our conveyance, our traveling expenses, our stationery expenses, printing charges, all whatever is variable. Like variable, what simply means that if we don't have any business, if we don't have any activity, these expenses will be nil. These can be bring down to zero. So those are variable expenses. So that we have to consider that had that project not been there, I would not have incurred printing charges. I would not have incurred that traveling. I would not have incurred that local conveyance cost. So these are all, like we can say, variable expenses, variable operating expenses also you can say. Then after subtracting those expenses, we arrive at the contribution. And then important is contribution. It can be contribution per kg, it can be contribution per man hour, it can be contribution per machine hour, it can be anything. But its parameters should be available. That if my person is working for 1 hour, what should be my contribution? Or if I am working for 1 hour, what should be my contribution in the net profitability terms? So here we can monitor all these things on maybe weekly basis or monthly basis. Weekly is for manufacturing concerns, certainly it should be monitored on daily basis. But if in case of consultancy and other things, we can go for, depending upon the volume of business, we can decide the periodicity of these indicators. So here I would like to narrate a small story about Move Ahead. Say, we talked about financial reporting, then we talked about key performance indicators, we talked about resources, but I feel it is not the end of everything. I would like to share a beautiful story which inspires me a lot. That there was a woodcutter who used to every day go to jungle, cut the wood and bring back to the market and used to sell that. That was his only means of livelihood. So every day when on his way to jungle, he used to see a cottage of a hermit. Sometimes that hermit also used to be there. Sometimes he may not be there. So whenever hermit used to be there, that person used to go down to that person, that hermit. Then, but they never used to exchange any words. There was no exchange of words. So he used to just go ahead and in the evening he used to go back. But his condition was very consistent. He was not improving at all. He was rather, with the passage of years, over the years, he started deteriorating. So one fine day, that hermit, when that person bowed down to the hermit spoke two words: move ahead, move ahead, move ahead. So that person was very shocked listening hermit's words, that what happened to him and how could he say and what does it really means. So while going to the jungle, he was just pondering upon these two words, move ahead. So he could not find any answer to this. So he just thought that why not, if hermit has not said anything, if he is saying me today, let me move ahead, let me go 2 kilometers more to find out if there is something. So when he went to around 2 kilometers ahead, he found that there was a beautiful sandalwood jungle. So in beautiful sandalwood jungle, he became so happy. He just cut the sandalwood in place of the regular wood on that day. He went back to the market. He got much more money. And then he regularly started coming to that sandalwood jungle. And he started getting acquiring more business, more money, etc. So now he had more people with him to work for him, to cut wood for him, and do that business. So very often he used to go to the jungle to just supervise his activities. So one day when he was on his way to jungle for the supervision work, he just thought that that hermit didn't tell me that you stop at sandalwood jungle. He said move ahead. So should I move further ahead? So he went another few kilometers ahead of that after crossing that sandalwood jungle, and he found a mine of precious metal. Then he became very happy. Then he started mining there, and then he started generating more money. Then whenever he used to go to the site visit, he just thought that why not to go further ahead, why not to go further ahead. And every time, whenever he was going ahead, he was finding some more precious things, some more precious materials. So this is how he started prospering. So here, my message to you is that you don't stop at profit and loss account, cash flow, balance sheet, etc. You don't stop even at key performance indicator. You keep yourself reinventing. You keep your business also reinventing, so that you can always remain in the rising trend. That's all from my side. Over to Arvind.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That's a wonderful message, especially the story time. Keep moving forward, don't stop. Keep reinventing yourself, right? Very wonderful messages. I would like to open this session for audience. If you have any questions, please ask our trainer. Please unmute if you're talking.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, my question is if I'm doing insurance business, how I can apply these things on that?
Yes, very good question. In case of insurance, you need to work out your parameters. Like it can be total new policies taken. Then like today or say in a week time, you target for something. Then you should have a target of premium collection also, like how much you have collected. Then you can also, like I told, that total hours spent on a particular job. So you must also monitor that. Like suppose you had taken the target of 10 policies and you wanted to spend, say, in a week, you wanted to spend around 40 hours. So whether like 1:4 ratio, could you maintain for whatever policies you have got? Suppose in place of 40 hours, you have worked for 48 hours, but you could get only 11 policies. So your time spent for every policy was 4.4 hours. So is that worth? So where do you need to improve? Actually, the basic purpose of key indicators is that where do you require the performance improvement? So this is how you can understand your points. You can create your own thing. If you want, I can help you in creating your performance indicators, and based on that you can continuously monitor, and then we can definitely
Okay. And I
define.
also want to pursue the CFP, like Certified Financial Planner. So
Okay.
I did my regular courses, but there are kind of assignments, as well as I have to prepare for the final exam. So
Okay.
it's a really hard time for me. I don't know how to prepare for the exam, as well as while doing the work, as well as homework. So that's why I need help on that.
You can definitely get in touch with me, no problem. I will be
Okay.
helping you. Whatever
Okay.
possible, I will help you. If
Okay.
whatever is related to financing and accounting and even project management, I help you. That's not a problem. So you can
Oh,
personally message me, or we can talk on WhatsApp, no problem.
okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
So that question was very valid, because what I understand from CFP is they got more focus on the financial management, legacy management, estate management, retirement management. So those are totally different topics. I don't know if those topics differ country-wise based on the laws of those countries, right?
Yes.
Do you think those things differ, like from India to Canada, or what?
Yeah, I feel that the basic principles of financial management remain same across the globe. But
Okay.
if you talk in particular like pension planning and some other financial planning, that may slightly vary. But in basic conceptual framework, it will remain same. Like if financing activity is there, so India also it will be called as financing activity. In Canada also it will be called as financing activity. But if you talk about a particular project planning, so it may, like here, to get into a new project, we need to have 10 different registration. In Canada, maybe another 10 different registrations. So this can be like procedural differences may be there, but basically conceptual framework is same.
So even for the retirement or taxation purposes, all those are different requirements countrywide,
Yeah.
right?
Tax laws are different in every country. That is point to be noted here. Taxation part is different everywhere.
Very good. And we only got less than 1 minute now.
How I can be helpful?
I would like to conclude this session by thanking you and all the audience. We will see you next week. And if any other question which we couldn't attend in this session, please put in the group and our trainer will do her best to answer those in the session. Thank you very much, ma'am, and everybody here. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye and have a great day.